Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak that's set to release on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC this summer. And today we're going to be going over some brand new details that we've gotten for Malzeno, basically the new flagship monster in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, thanks to a brand new set of conceptual art pictures that we got showcasing us a little bit of more details as to what kind of monster this one actually is. And I think more importantly, what type of abilities is going to have, what type of movement, what type of attacks it could ultimately end up having based off of his body type and how is it actually going to move and react to the hunters themselves as is being hunted. So we have three brand new concept art shots, each one providing us with new details on each specific area of his body. In the first one, we have a couple of pictures and drawings of his head. Essentially, this is concept art. And in the translations, which are rough to begin with, on the upper left side, you see that they're showcasing something like inside his mouth, and the translation underneath reads, "For carrying the meat of the catch when the body is not caught." This is presumably talking about, this is just him biting into things and not necessarily him being able to carry a big body with his mouth. And there's a reason for that, which we'll go over in a bit. On the right side of that image, you're also seeing a little bit of like interesting quote, because it actually reads, "It's still too early to defeat me. Speaking of beautiful and living monsters, I am number 2. It's almost as if he's speaking about himself, like if he's speaking for himself, because underneath in the squared area, it actually reads, "Mostly a self-writer," and then in quotations, "Can it be trusted?" So they're actually even questioning what he actually says or believes of himself to begin with. You also get to see a drawing of his mouth fully open, pretty much just kind of being ready to bite. This is where we also get to see the understanding of like for the teeth for carrying meat, essentially the first quote that we went over. And on the bottom right side, we just have kind of like a side shot of his full body, which we've kind of seen before already. On the second image that we have, however, I think it's a more interesting one. So on the upper left side, we're seeing a couple of claws and nails, essentially is what they're describing it as, but they're essentially claws. On the bottom part of the left side, it actually reads, "Claws that are easy to get rid of. They can also be cross-patterned." Now this cross-patterned section that it talks about in the little square, I've seen that also mentioned in other like conceptual art as well for this specific monster. So I think that is something that we have not necessarily seen just yet, but they keep referring to that, and I'm not necessarily sure what to make of that. On the lower left side of the image, it also reads, "Claws left behind." So essentially it's like leaving his claws stuck in the wall, or is making huge indentations on the wall based off of his claws, which are extremely powerful. Then on the big shot on the right side of the image, we see him kind of like clinging onto a wall, and the translation underneath says, "It's been spotted doing weird walking maneuvers on the castle walls at night." So that's basically what it's doing. This is what I meant originally at the top of the video, where we're talking about we're learning new information of what he's going to be like. Whenever he's fighting on this castle thing, think about him going up against the wall, something that most likely people are not going to be expecting to see. We now have information that this is most likely something, one of the maneuvers at the very least, that he is going to be able to do. If you think back onto the original game and Rise, we have like Bishaten, for example, clinging onto the walls in the flooded forest in very specific places. So Bishaten is able to climb up against the wall, do attacks from the wall. Presume that same thing is going to be happening with Malzeno. He's going to be able to climb onto the castle walls and be able to do weird attacks from there as well. I think Nargacuga also has an ability that can like fling itself up the roof, I think, but we haven't seen that all that often, but it can certainly do that as well. So yeah, I think Malzeno is going to have like wall-related attacks based on the description that we are seeing here now. And finally, moving over to the brand new and third final image, concept art that we have. On the left side, we see a long shot of his tail. They're showcasing like a candelier type of thing. I think that is the idea of like a three-pronged type of tail that it has. On the bottom left side, it talks about, again, a cross-shaped section, just like the claws. I don't necessarily know what to make of that. Maybe it's a translation error. or maybe it's just something that we have not seen just yet. But what we do see on the central lower side is that it is being using its tail to grab onto bodies. This presumably recalls the part of like why it uses its mouth to carry meat, but not the actual body parts. It uses the tail to carry like a corpse essentially, or like whenever it's just not a piece of meat, it will just carry the corpse instead with the tail. So that is that part. On the upper left, on the upper right side, I should say, it actually reads, it's an interesting tail, and that's about it. It showcases like it's a straight tail, and then it can be like open and closed essentially, kind of like a claw, but it's a 3-pronged claw. So maybe that is what they're talking about. Not cross-shaped. I don't necessarily know what to make of that, but when we look at that image underneath, it is showcasing that it is able to grab onto monsters and use it in that regard. There is a bonus image here that I did see. I don't know if I used this originally in one of the first concept art videos that I put together, showcasing, like, I believe was the Luna Garen video that I made when I was talking about like all the information that we had up until then. In this one, they're just showcasing like another side shot, but this is on the left side of his body. So in the first image we saw the right side, now we're seeing the left side, but again, not all that difference. They do showcase the tail being a little bit of a different color because again, the shape is different. They are really trying to say his tail attacks are going to be something you're going to need to watch out for. As we talked about before, his bite is going to be a little bit different. We don't necessarily know what that red glowing thing is ultimately. They've even hinted at that in some of those like Hinoa drawings of like that red glow that Malzeno has is something you need to pay attention to. But again, we don't necessarily know what that means just yet. And also now we know that he's most likely going to have some type of wall climbing attack based on the information that the concept art is referring to. So I always find this kind of stuff interesting. I'm going to be going over a couple of Luna Garen one as well. They have been posting new information on him as well. But again, it's all about like trying to put it all together and wait so we have enough so I can make a proper video and go over it in a proper way. I don't want to just make one video for one image. That just kind of doesn't make sense. Once we have kind of like a clearer picture of what the monster is going to be, what they're going to do, I want to talk about it as best as we can, because sadly we just don't necessarily know much about these monsters just yet. Capcom has been extremely quiet when it comes to details for any of the stuff when it comes to Sunbreak. And as we are waiting for spring, whenever that's going to be, we're in March already. So, you know, we're a couple of weeks for like winter to end, spring to begin officially, but spring officially, I think for them means the beginning of the first quarter in like 2022. So this is like, you know, April essentially. The first week of April will be spring for them in the way they're saying it, Japanese calendar. So we're waiting to see how that's going to shape out. So expect new information in April. So for right now, all we have is concept art and a little bit of tidbits of information that director Suzuki has been dropping on Twitter. But that's about all the information that I have for you guys today. I hope you guys found it interesting. If you are brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.